Hi, welcome back. Tonight I'm going to do a couple of little repairs on things that I've been asked to repair. One of them is this sewing machine. However, the sewing machine is not at fault. The problem is the power brick. There's no output. I've tested it with a meter, nothing at all coming out of it. So I cracked it open, and inside there's one or two bits that are sort of testable. There's a fuse here, that's good, and a fair few other components which I've been around and tested as best I can with the meter. Everything seems to work. I've measured 300 volts on the input, or the output of the rectifier, and across the transformer and the switch on the main IC there. I've checked the feedback circuit, that all works, but still nothing. So rather than spend too much time on something which is probably just going to blow up again if I fix it, I'm going to pull the power cable out and see if the sewing machine works off 5 volts. This is a 6 volt 1.2 amp supply, but what you get a lot of these days is USB charger plugs, which are usually a couple of amps. So if it'll work off 5 volts, I'm tempted just to splice a USB connector onto the end of here and let me use it with a USB charger, and then hopefully that should be a bit more reliable if nothing else. So got my power supply here, which I can bring you around. The half finished project. It's front's hanging off, so I've got it set for 5 volts, 5.1 volts, and I will try plugging in the sewing machine. Forgive my camera stand. Plugs in the back. Stripe on these cables is positive. And power's on. Okay, that seems to work. I'll send it back with that mod, should we call it? See if they're happy with it, and go from there. Otherwise, I'll have to purchase a new power brick. So I'll splice on a USB cable later. I've got a couple of USB cables here actually. Decent USB cables have 24 gauge power wires. Now this cable here, I'm not sure you can be able to see this, says 2 core 28 AWG plus 2 core 28 AWG, which means this is a cheap nasty one and you won't get a lot of power down that one. This one, however, 28 AWG slash 1P, that's one pair, so that's the USB pair, and then you've got 24 AWG slash 2C, which is 2 cores of 24 AWG, so that's the power wires. So they will be nice and substantial, and hopefully carry enough current to run this thing. So I think what I'll do is cut the B end off this USB cable, and either find another connector or splice it on and heat shrink it, and then that'll just plug straight into a USB charger. So that was a fairly easy one. Problem number 2 is my electric shower. Now it stopped working very well a little while ago, and there was a problem with the control PCB, call it control PCB, it doesn't really do very much, it turns the thing on and off. In here, whereby there's two input resistors here which limit the current off the mains into the control circuitry, and they had got so hot they'd carbonized the PCB. So what I did was I desoldered them, I cut out the carbonized bit of board because that's just plain dangerous, that's a fire waiting to happen, and I stuck them back in to see if it would behave itself, and it did for a little while, but I think these resistors have probably got too hot because it's very intermittent at the moment. Sometimes it'll turn on, other times it'll turn on for a second or two and then just turn off again. Fortunately, we don't use this shower too much, but it'd be nice to have it properly fixed. So I've got a couple of much bigger resistors which should be able to take the heat. There's plenty of space in this cavity here to take them, so I'm going to work out how to do that and solder them in place and then put it back together. Hopefully it'll work. So looking at this, that board sits in that cavity there, and there's some space down here, which effectively is across this area. So what I'll do is I will sit the resistors sort of here, cover them in heat shrink so that they don't touch any of the other stuff, and connect them up. We'll give it a go. Right, these tracks are quite badly damaged, as you can see, so that's quite burnt. So I've actually peeled that track off and cut it off just because it was peeling anyway. So I've soldered it. It goes back to this point here with this diode, whatever it is here. So I've just soldered onto that point there. Now the other point, which I did solder onto here, the track has also, the pad has lifted up and split. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of a repair to join this Zener diode here to this one and this capacitor, and then I think I'll do a little flexible flying lead to this resistor because this is quite stiff and it's just going to rip something off if I try and solder it to the board. I've fitted a bit of tin copper wire across that point there, which joins those, that Zener diode, that cap and that Zener diode with this resistor. So what I'm going to do, I'm quite happy with the strength of that actually, so I'm just going to solder that resistor leg down to the tin copper wire there, and hopefully that'll be a job done. There we are. Now hopefully this will fit. Ease it over, there we are. Oh, plastic cover. Not quite sure what that's for, but spin that one around. Right, well that's back in. Button still works in terms of mechanically. I'll have to reassemble that and give it a go. Well, that's 2 little repairs that we need to be doing for a little while done, and thanks for watching.